Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Daniel Chukwuemeka. So first off, I want to say it's good to have you on the other end listening to me. It's good to have you watching me and paying attention to the things I'm saying. Before I go on any further, I want to say I plead with you this morning, I plead with you today to take your time and go on our Facebook and YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel on YouTube, like and comment on this, and share with your friends. It will do us a world of good if you help me and the things I say to reach more people and so I can be able to talk to more people. Welcome to today's edition of Life and Business Podcast with Chukwuemeka Messi. Today on the show, I'll be talking about a number of things, but one of the things I'll be hammering on most likely today, one of the things I'll be talking about today is purpose. How to find your purpose? Is there a thing like finding your purpose? What are the different intricacies with regards to purpose? Now, the topic of purpose is one that I have particularly very much invested in because of the conversations I have had in the past, because of the things I have seen, and because of my personal experience with what life is, what life isn't, what meaning is, what meaning isn't. Now, there's a number of philosophical conversations, a number of philosophical arguments as to whether or not everybody has a purpose. Now, if you've been in the self-development motivational treadmill for a while, you obviously must have come across finding your purpose. Some have changed it to finding your passion. Some have said it's finding your why. Whichever of this you believe in, it all falls back to finding that one thing that you are supposed to do as an adult. That's one thing that ultimately fills you, that one thing that ultimately allows you to become the fullest version of yourself. So today I'll be trying to deconstruct as best as I can what I think purpose is, what the idea of finding purpose is, and if there is a thing like purpose in the first place. Again, before I go any further, I want to encourage you to please like, comment, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I'll do well to give you my thoughts and issues and share my ideas on things as we go forward. My plan is that before the end of 2024, I want to have at least 1 million followers. I know that's a lot to demand of you, but I'm trusting that you, alongside me together, can get to this goal and we can ensure that the message I teach or preach gets to as many people as possible. Now, before I get into all of the purpose thing, I think it's best I tell you a story. I think it'll form the bedrock. No, it will form the bedrock of what my conversation will lead on from here. I'll be also giving you some of the research I did and some of the popular persons who have talked about purpose and what they believe purpose is and how to find it. As a child, I always loved talking. It's fun now looking back at the things I used to do as a child and how it used to be looked and frowned at as a child. I remember in primary school, I was kind of one of the oldest in my class because I never went to school early. I was always the guy that made the loudest noise. I was always talking. For some weird reasons, I just did not understand why children in primary school had to be quiet. I still do not understand it till now, but then I was always quiet. I was always loud. I was always talking. I was always having conversations with my friends, many of whom I don't remember their names today, but I knew that I was always at the back because they believed that I could see clearly since I was taller than a good number of my peers, but I was always talking. My excuse, or rather, what allowed me to escape a lot of beatings in primary school was because I was pretty smart too. So I could escape the many punishments that came with doing a lot of talking. But I was always talking in primary school. I also remember this period in my life back in, I think I was in just 1 or 2, where I would not go to school because of some issues at home, and then I would gather with some people. I think there were two. One of them was very much older than me, and the other like a year or two younger than me. And we'll sit together. And this was the point where in Nigeria we used to have this magazines for churches where they'll talk about different pastors and the things they did. I remember one time where they said they found some juju planted just beneath or beside the church. I also remember stories that had to do with TB Joshua, the late TB Joshua. I remember stories that had to do with Pastor Chris Oyakilome and all the fake miracles he was doing. So those were the magazines I was exposed to as a child. So this period in my life, not going to school and staying back at home, there was a tailoring shop. Let's use that word because that's what we call them then, tailors. There's a tailoring shop very close to my house. I would leave my house, in the mornings, not being in school, come to this tailoring shop, and here I would sit for hours just reading to people stories from those magazines. Now, the privilege I had was that I was able to start reading fairly early compared to my peers in my hood. I grew up in a hood, so you can understand that reading early was a big deal for children. So at 5, 6, I could comfortably read. So when I was 7, 8, 9, I was very comfortable reading of magazines. So I would read to these people from these magazines, and I would read to them so well that they were animated by me reading it. Now they could also read, but they wanted to hear me read to them the things in the same magazine they have. And it was exciting for me because the fact that people were listening to me and they found my reading style and my gesticulations and intonations and all of those things interesting made me feel good. I didn't feel proud like some god or something, but I felt good that my words were very influential in helping people get closer to the stories in those magazines. Now, I told that story because it will lead us to one of the research I came across when trying to understand purpose and, trying to figure out what it means for a person to have a purpose and find the purpose. Now, one of the things that I think I would love to, no, I think, I know I'd love to share with you on is regards to purpose is something I found from Carl Jung. Of course, Carl Jung is one of the greatest, psychologist, psychotherapist in the world. He postulated a number of things, but this one about purpose that he talks about caught me, and I think it's best I share it with you because it's one that sort of ties into some of my belief about masculinity. I believe first that masculinity or life itself is about suffering. And now hold on, before you go and say, bro, what are you talking about? Are you saying we're all here to suffer? No. I am saying that for everything that we go through in life, there are stages of suffering we'll have to do in developing as a person, in going to school from primary school through to secondary school, and as high as a PhD and professorial level. You go through hardship, you read even when you don't want to, you study, you write exams. In trying to build your body, for example, as a man, you go to the gym even when you don't want to, you push beyond your weight category, you squat beyond your weight category. In building your mind, you read books, you try skills that you are terrible at that many times defeats and deflates your ego in the process, but you keep at it. In being a relationship and building a family for a man, you go on with a girl who piss you off a number of times, but you stay with them. You make sacrifices to be the sole provider and protector for this person, even when you don't feel like it. You have children who would annoy you and sometimes make you feel like all your effort into making them better is null and void. So, in every phase of a man's life, it is all about suffering. Now, suffering can be perceived as good or bad depending on what side of the divide you are and what mindset you have towards suffering. But the ultimate goal or the ultimate experience for everybody, the rich, the poor, the wealthy, the not so wealthy, the old, the young, the man, the woman, is that we all are suffering in one way or the other. Now, because we're all suffering in one way or the other, I think Carl Jung's definition of purpose very much ties into that. So this is what Carl Jung said about purpose that I think you should know. He said, according to him, purpose comes from voluntary self-sacrifice. Now, what Carl Jung is saying that the thing that we are meant to do, that sense of fulfillment that we get has to come from voluntary self-sacrifice. Now, what this means is that we have to be willing to sacrifice for things by our own intrinsic motivation without expecting an external reward. Those things that you are very much willing to do with or without a reward is what purpose is about. I gave you the story of reading to people as a child and how it made me feel good. Now, the responses obviously was very influential in how I felt, but I could go on for hours reading to these people from that magazine and not feel a slight of hunger. No matter how long it took, no matter how tired I was, if somebody had said to me in those moments, come and read this thing to these people, I was very much willing to do it. And that is what Carl Jung is saying. He's saying, whatever thing that you can willingly sacrifice yourself for, then that is your purpose. In his book, one of the popular books, The Red Book is the title of that book. So you go look for it out in your local library. He talked about how the great philosophers of old, Socrates, the Catos, many of whom we are we talk about a lot these days, understood that purpose was about sacrificing themselves for what they believe in. More than anything, it was about saying, I trust in this thing and I'm willing to give my every freaking beat to it. I am willing to see this succeed. I am willing to see this work. I'm willing to see this happen, irrespective of the rewards I get, irrespective of the condemnations I get. I believe in this thing long and hard enough that I can go whatever mile is necessary to see to fruition. And that's what Carl Jung said. Now, he made mention of a number of things I'd love to share with you again before I move any further. Now, he says purpose is also finding in self-serving pleasure. What do you mean by self-serving pleasure? It's not some narcissistic, self-aggrandizing thing. What it means is purpose is that thing that when you do makes you feel a sense of, I don't want to say belief, a sense of fullness where you do it, and even if it was tasking, even if it demanded of you hours of working, even if it demanded of you endless sacrifices, you feel pleasured because you were able to do it. Now, I am bringing you Carl Jung's thoughts on this because my opinion on purpose and what I think it is sort of relates somewhat to it. Now, that's Carl Jung's thought. The other person I was able to, I found his thought and purpose quite interesting is the popular writer Robert Greene. Now, if you don't know Robert Greene, he's the author of Mastery, the author of 48 Laws of Power, I would say two of the best books in the world, some would say. I haven't read all of 48 Laws of Power, so you can forgive me, but I've, read a good number of pages in Mastery, so I can say, quite fairly from my little experience that he does understand what purpose means. And he said that purpose to him is that thing that we were very much comfortable doing as a child. That thing that we could do easily without blinking an eyelid, no matter how long it took us to do it. He also said purpose most times is found in those things that fascinated us as a child. Give an example of Steve Jobs and how Steve Jobs told the story of how his eyes lit up the first time he came across a computer, and the excitement Jobs felt in creating and designing things, the image he painted in his head with regards to how he can use a computer to create solutions for people. He also gave an example of Mark Zuckerberg and all of these great people whose experiences as young adults, sometimes as children, tilted towards doing things that they were excited about. It wasn't so much about the gains, it wasn't so much about the financial rewards, it wasn't so much about what people would say and kind of applause they would get. It was about how they felt. It was the pleasure they felt in that moment that allowed them to do those things. And he, according to Robert Greene, says that when you want to find your purpose, walk back in time to what you used to do, walk back in time to what made you feel whole as a child. Um, I don't know if I solely believe in that because I think that as we evolve, we find different aspects of ourselves that we never knew existed before. I also do not think that what got us excited as children ultimately ties into what our purpose is. I also have a very somewhat biased opinion as to whether or not a thing like purpose exists, but that's a conversation for another day. Now, the last person, obviously, I'm sure you've heard of him, but if you have not heard of him, I think you should check him out. His name is Simon Sinek. He's a business coach, um, I want to use the word of Chris Williams, a savant when it comes to thoughts about life, about generations, and all of that. He wrote the book Finding Your Why, and according to Simon Sinek, your why is the ultimate reason why you do what you do. So I don't go into unnecessary details on that. If you want to know more on Finding Your Why, go check out Simon Sinek's books, Finding Your Why, on Amazon and anywhere you get your books. And I'm so sure you would, find it very interesting and wholesome read for you. But he said that the purpose of a person is that thing that is enriching to them. That's why that is beyond every financial gain. Like I've said, in all amongst these three different intellectuals and thought leaders, if I'm allowed to call them that, Carl Jung, Robert Greene, and Simon Sinek, the one thing, the one thread that cuts along across these three intellectuals is the pleasure you get and the fact that you're willing to do it over and over and over and over and over again without being tired. I asked a colleague and friend today what she thought purpose was, and the reason why I asked is because I was listening to Tim Ferriss the other day. This is a story I'll tell you some other time, but let me just give you a summary of what Tim Ferriss said about understanding life beyond what is. And he said that when he wants to understand a thing, he asks the most randomest of people what their thoughts are on those things. And those people's responses are what influences his opinion, not his opinion per se, but his decision as to what that thing is. And so I thought to try it with my colleague and ask her, what do you think purpose is? What exactly do you define purpose as? And her response was quite interesting. She said she belongs to two different schools of thought. One that says your purpose is that thing you found out from a child. Some people also say your purpose, is that thing that God has ordained you to do, that God reveals to you, and all of that thing. But she also made mention of one other aspect of purpose. I think we do not talk about enough. It is that people create their purpose. They say, you know what, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm just going to do it. Now, I don't know what school you belong to, but here is what I think purpose is. I think purpose is that thing that you do that makes you feel like the fullest version of yourself. It is funny, but it's also interesting that God, in His ultimate wisdom, if you believe in God, created every single person differently. He created us to have diverse feelings, to have diverse things we chase, to have different things that fills our soul to the absolute brain. For me, obviously, as you know, I'm talking to you right now, so you probably have an idea what I like to do. I like to talk. I like to share ideas. I love to debate ideas, and those are the things that fill me up as a person. However, I wouldn't say categorically that that is my purpose. I wouldn't say that this thing I'm doing, talking to you, is what my purpose is. But I think that for every person out there, the one thing you should know, and this is my opinion, so you don't have to take it as gospel. The one thing you should know is that there are things that you are inherently good at. You are inherently good at it. You are so good at it that you find it to be play when other people find it to be work. I have a girlfriend who's super beautiful, actually, and she loves to dance. She loves to move her body. She sees a dance and in a few minutes, she understands how to do it. She gets the moves. And I'm there looking at the dance like, how do you move your body so articulately that it fits in perfectly and sometimes even better than the person's video you're watching? I can't, for the likes of me, dance. I can't move my body to save my own damn life. Right? And I don't know if that's a purpose, but I know that she dances way better than I do. I know that she's super comfortable in dancing and I can't do it. And that's the cue. It's not the ultimate North Star to define what your purpose is, but it's a cue to telling you just what it is you might be great at. I think purpose is a lot of times what you're great at and how what you're great at can impact people. But first, you have to look for what is that thing that you love doing. In all honesty, right? What is that thing that you love doing that is super comfortable for you, but could be a lot of work for other people? For me, for example, talking is super comfortable for me. I could talk for hours and I don't want to stop. I could listen to people talk for hours and I don't want to stop listening to them because I find the use of words, its meticulousness in use very fascinating. I find ideas, no matter how nascent they are, the expression of those ideas, the questioning of those ideas, the twisting and turning and trying to find and see through ideas are super fascinating. It's fascinating for me whether I'm saying them or I'm writing them. I find words and their usage extremely fascinating. For you, it could be writing code and providing solutions to people through technology, right? For you, it could be singing. For you, it could be dancing. For you, it could be managing people. I'll tell you one for me. I'm going to use myself as an example here because I think one of the things that I believe strongly in is that our personal stories go a long way in helping us buttress our point. So allow me to tell my story here. I have always wanted to, before I knew what life was as a child, I have always wanted to be a source of inspiration to people. I did not know what it meant then, but I just knew that I loved the idea of listening to people and helping them feel better about themselves. And so when I grew older and I understood, oh, there was therapy, there was motivational speaking, all of the many things that involved helping people feel better about themselves, I began to love it even more. But even before that, I love to talk to people. I love to listen to people. And not to brag, I seem to have a gift. I know, I'm bragging already. But I seem to have a gift of knowing how to let people trust me enough with the things they are dealing with. Now, some would say, oh, you probably read up about it. Yes, of course, I had to do some work in terms of learning how to get people to talk. But my natural disposition is to want to listen to people and get them to talk about stuff. I don't always prefer solutions because heck, I'm not God. Even God sometimes lets you look for your solutions yourself. But I love the fact that people can trust me with stuff you're going through. Now, I'm not saying that's my purpose, but I'm saying it's something that I find very comfortable doing and I find easy doing. For some other people, it is raising money for businesses. I was listening to Stephen Butler the other day and he talked about how after he dropped out of school, he wanted to do stuff and he realized that he was very comfortable looking for money. When his school was looking for a vending machine, I think, or a coffee machine, he knew what to do to get people to, to give them the vending machine for free. So it doesn't have to be in the art. Whatever thing you love to do doesn't have to be in the art. It could be in something as some would say mundane as organizing people or managing people. It could be in something as quote unquote mundane as financing or looking for sources for finance for a business. It could be in something as helping people make their plans come to fruition, being the ones that ginger and pushes them to achieving their goal. I do not know what it is for you, but I want you to look for that thing you're super comfortable in doing. That one thing that it could be one, it could be two, but let me use one for sake of clarity and ease. That one thing that you know that when you're doing it, it's easy for you. And people go like, how do you do it? You're thinking, I don't know, it's kind of simple for me, right? And that's one. The other thing is for you to know how important that thing you're doing will be in other people's life. I am not saying it has to be world changing. I don't want you to be Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela or Mother Teresa. I don't need you to be any of that. But you cannot, and this is something I learned while writing my book, purpose is not really the answer, is that whatever thing you love doing would not fill you with a sense of fulfillment if it doesn't help other people. Impact, one of the most important words I think that every human intrinsically is given by God, is what separates purpose and narcissistic self-aggrandization. So, for example, I love food. I love to eat. I can't say eating food is my purpose or it's because it doesn't help anybody. Maybe it helps the chef that cooks it because they feel good, but eating food should not. It's not like I know in America stuff like this happening. Like, what's your job? I'm a professional food eater. Those guys have really weird professions, but it doesn't help anybody, right? It doesn't help one person or two persons to be any better. So, whatever thing you love doing should help one or two persons to feel better. The musician who loves to sing is helping somebody feel better about their life, either making them happier or making them more introspective or making them, whatever emotions he or she is evoking from their listener. Dancer is helping their listeners, their viewers to feel a lot better about themselves. A quick story. The other day, just to spend time with my girlfriend, we were watching dance videos on Instagram, I think, Instagram. And for the first time in a long time, I felt really excited watching dance videos. I'm like, I never knew dance videos could be this refreshing. It felt like a way to escape all of the turmoil in my head. So, the dancer is having an impact in my life. Now, you probably would go, all of these things you've said are just in the arts. Okay, what about the person that loves to organize? I know somebody who is super good and super comfortable in doing financials. They love the numbers. They are damn right excited when they do the numbers. It's helping people, it's helping a company, it's helping a business, to make money, to make profits and pay people. So again, whatever thing you love, whatever thing you find comfortable doing, has to have some level of impact on other people. Now, again, impact doesn't have to be grand scale. Like I mentioned before, I'm not saying you should be Nelson Mandela or Mother Teresa. What I am saying is that the thing you love doing should be impactful to one person's life at least, to something. It should have some form of goodness in the world. We all are created to be good. Okay, it kind of sounds weird. I don't know. I don't know about that, right? So I don't want to go into philosophical pigeonholes right now. But I think that ultimately, every human being or most humans want to be impactful in the things they do. I was listening to Tom Billy the other day, I think so, it was last year, and he was talking about how to change and transform your life, how to change your habits. And he said, if you're trying to learn a skill, um, find the skill, that skill you're trying to learn, that attitude you're trying to build, that character you're trying to develop in yourself. Find a way to tie it into how it is beneficial to other people other than yourself, and realize that it fuels you more. So I've made mention of two important things here, and I'll quickly round this up so I don't go on rambling for long. Is that there's a thing that you are very comfortable doing, but though that thing you're comfortable doing is also quite impactful to other people's lives, right? So you have to have that thing that is also impactful to other people's life. Now, some people, I don't know if you're part of the persons who believe in this idea that, oh, since I love doing this thing, then hey, I could just do whatever I want to do it. Heck no. Everything that we love doing demands work. That's why I said life. I don't know who said this. Probably, I think probably Francis Nzeshi, because that guy is quite a pessimist. Life is about suffering. I don't mean suffering in the most negative of ways, but whatever thing you love doing, you would have to put in work to make it work. So I love to write, or I love to read, or I love to dance, or I love to do the books for people. I can't just wake up in the morning and start doing it. I would have to learn, I have to grind, I have to be persistent, I have to persevere through the good and the bad times to ensure that this thing that I love doing gets better. In mastery, and Robert Greene, he talked about one skill that I find not fascinating. No, fascinating is not the word. I find interesting. He said that the masters of things of art or sculpture, he gave the example of a lot of proven world-renowned artists that we know of. And he said the masters are people who went at the thing they want to do every damn day. But also, he said that masters were willing to take the peace from people in what they believe in. Now, why am I saying this? If you have found that thing that you love to do, and you understand how that thing impacts the world. Me, when I say the world, I don't mean everybody, one person. You have to be willing to put in the work to refine that thing such that you become a master at it. But also, you need to be also ready to take the piece at people when they doubt your ability to do that thing and do it well. You have to try new things. You have to explore. It has to be exciting to you. These things that you do, this ideas that you have, this way of seeing the world. Purpose, in the sense of it, very much involves the work, the grind, the hours, consistent hours. I'm sure you've heard of the 10,000 hours of mastery. I don't know who said that. But it's very important that you put in the work into becoming the best version of that thing or those things that you're meant to do. But more than anything else, you should also be ready to take the piece at people when they don't believe in what you have to do. So, in all of this conversation about purpose, in all of these, I would say, rants, what I'm trying to say here, what I'm saying here is that you have to, I don't want to say find it, because this is a conversation for another day. Hopefully, we'll get somebody else to talk about it, more so simply and clearly. um, it's that you have to look for that thing. If first cue is look for that thing you're comfortable in. How does it impact the world? And how much self-sacrifice are you willing to make to be great at that thing? If you can't do those things, if you're willing to do those things, I don't want to say I assure you because I'm not certain yet. I am still working my way through all of this. But I am quite optimistic that you'll find fulfillment and reason for waking in the morning through it. Because I do not want you to go through your life not having a reason to wake in the morning. I do not want you to go through your life hating every taken hour that you're here. Life is short. Life is suffering. So pick what you want to suffer at. It has to be something you're happy doing and suffering at. Pick that thing and go at it. My name is Umesi Daniel Chukwemeka, and this is my YouTube channel again. And like I said before, please do like, subscribe, and help me get to 1 million subscribers by the end of 2024. I know it's off the hinges, so I ask you to do that. But I trust you and I together will make this work. Thank you.